Phil Heath, welcome to the show.
What's happening?
Good to see you, man. You look great.
Dude, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Where did the name, The Gift, come from?
Well, it wasn't me. Okay. It was an old roommate that I had. I was already getting into the sport of bodybuilding, and he was like, bro, I have the perfect nickname for you. I was like, what is it? He was like, The Gift. I was like, seriously? You couldn't have picked a better name than this. Like, everybody's going to be like, this guy's conceited, he's arrogant, he's cocky, this and that and the other. He was like, no. Think deeper. You're a former Division I athlete. You're intelligent. You're college educated. You have a great physique, and you know how to speak to those audiences. No one's ever seen this. And I was like, yeah, man, but I'm not even pro yet. He goes, doesn't matter. He's like, I've been around, because he had competed before, and he's actually from Cyprus. So I feel like him being European and seeing more bodybuilders over there and just in that area, because of bodybuilding being in a much bigger sport overseas than it is here in the States, he just saw talent. And he was like, this is you, and your gift is to give. And then I was like, that's what I'm going to use it as. Allow people to form their own opinion initially, but that's based on their own stuff. Even like me, I was like, oh yeah, I think it's this, when really it's not. It's about what I can give to you. A gift is something I can give to you. So then you do what? You have happiness, you have joy, you have peace. And I use that. I use the gifts that I have. And obviously in bodybuilding, did some incredible things. But it was about how I got there, so then I can help other people get to their, champion podium, to go through their levels of adversity, to create better moments of triumph. And I love the nickname, because I feel like we all have a gift. You have one, I have one, everyone has one. But we have to face those fears as well and understand that we're only as good as the tests. Are we truly battle tested? So it's like, what makes a person so smart? What makes a person, we always see like, oh, well, Shaquille O'Neal hit a lot of free throws by himself. But when the lights were on, maybe not as much, right? So you can't say like, oh yeah, this guy, he's so badass. It's like, nah, man, that gift is only as good as it's been tested and it's been forged and fortified over and over and over again. So for me, it's just, it takes on a greater meaning than just like, oh yeah, he thinks he's God's gift to this. It's like, well, no, I can be if I pour into myself and be willing to pour into others.
So 17 years old, you do this interview and somebody asks you whether or not you're going to make it into the NBA. And you said, I don't know about the NBA.
You saw
but I know that I'm going to be pro at something.
Yeah.
Where, at the age of 17, playing basketball as a 5'9", 180-pound guy.
Yeah, man.
Where do you get the self-belief from that you knew? Because you, despite people's assumptions, and I really want to get into this, it's not like you came from some privileged background.
Right.
It's not like you had things, whatever the opposite of a silver platter is, it was kind of that scenario.
Yeah.
How do you develop self-belief at an age where you only have minimal evidence that something's going to come of it?
Well, understanding who is pouring into you. Mom, stepfather, even my father poured into me. The coaches that I had poured into me. I had friends that were highly competitive that, forced me, and that's a key word, is competitive nature. Like I said, I grew up in Seattle, Washington. So you got to think, at that time, I was born in 79. So just in my neighborhood, we had guys that are now pros in something. I was neighbors with Nate and Kevin Burleson. I was neighbors to Nate Robinson, to Jamal Crawford, to Jason Terry, to, all these different athletes, right? And we talk about just guys that you may recognize. What about the other ones that didn't make it? So my whole journey was about finding who I am and not being afraid to be who I am, who I'm supposed to be, and having that killer instinct. So I had a coach by the name of Mike Bethia, and he's still at my high school to this day. And he was probably the Bobby Knight of basketball back then in high school sports. So like, we'll yell at you, we'll curse at you, we'll damn near hit you upside the head, right? Totally different than what we could get away with today. But you know what it was? He just wanted to pull it out of you. Like, like some people can really see something within you and they know that you're being really timid. and they can't whip you, but they want to like shake you. It's like the coach that grabs the face mask of the guy and says, "You can do this," but I gotta yell. I'm losing my mind here. You're messing up, and I know you can succeed. So, at that given point in time, I got the opportunity to get a Division I scholarship to the University of Denver, signed that letter of intent, and then I was interviewed by the Seattle Times, and something just came over me of like, okay, you already beat the odds. You're 5'9", and I was actually 155 pounds at the time, but I already beat these odds. I was a guy that was already dunking a basketball. I was already running a 4.34. I was a state, 100-meter track athlete. Like I've already defeated a lot of odds. But I had to be real. And growing up in Seattle, you understand like what else is around you. So like you have basketball, but you also have Microsoft. You're seeing more millionaires come out of Microsoft than there are in the NBA. So I guess just through repetition in my mind of always having something to carry you beyond athletics with academics and stuff, because that's my parents, they always forced that on me. Always have something to fall back on, right? Still to this day, when I hear this, I'm like, man, that was prophetic. That was not from me, man. That was from source above. It was like, he was telling the truth. You may not be pro in basketball, but you're definitely going to be pro at something. And I became that.
So I think a lot of people hearing that, plus the gift as the nickname, plus this illustrious career of 7 Olympia wins and everything else that you've achieved, would presume, okay, this guy, even if not everything was handed to him, psychologically he had all of the tools ready from the beginning, from before the beginning, to be able to do this. Can you take me through the day of your first show and what it felt like to step out on stage?
Well, the night before, I asked all my teammates, because I was still living in the basketball house, to not bring the party back to the house. Of course they did. So about 2 a.m, I'm over here being awakened because I'm living in the basement, right? And I have forgiven them, but I have to be realistic. They were going to do it anyway, right? College girls, red cups, it's just loud music.
Yep.
But then realizing I'm in it. I did all the work, remove myself from this situation, go to your car, which is parked in the garage, sleep in there. You still have a car, you can still sleep in there. Woke up and my friend Josh Crandall picked me up and drove me to Boulder. And I'm literally telling him, if I don't win this damn thing, man, like, I don't know if I could do this again, because so much work for someone that could tarnish this. It's not like basketball games, like where you can go out, you can drink, you can party and all this, still go play in a game. Bodybuilding, no way. And I learned firsthand, right? So going into that first competition, walking in there's a couple things. Of course, I'm already tired from last night. And then also realizing that I don't really know what I don't know. So I've just because I watched a bodybuilding show in person and on a VHS tape, watching Ronnie Coleman win a 98 Olympia, it's different when you're there signing up, putting your name on there, buying your NPC card and all this other stuff. And what are you going to do? You're not looking at yourself. You're looking at everybody else. And with you looking at everybody else, you forget who you are so much that I'm like, whoa, this guy, he's got all these muscles and he's vascular and this and that and the other. Looks like he's on PEDs or something. My friend goes, he is. And I'm like, what? I'm not. Like, why didn't you tell me this? I was like, man, you asshole. Like, what's going on? And he goes, you would have never done it if I would have told you that you were going against people like this. I was like, what? And he was like, just be chill, man. You look great. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So, of course, I was leading with a lot of anxiety and whatnot. So as I was walking on that stage, I thought, I need to dress myself with a cloak of like armor, like of like strength. So that's when I was like, walking out like this, like the Terminator. That's what I was thinking. Like, just walk out like the Terminator, like be strong, be this. When really I was just looking like an idiot. But I was looking like a guy that was totally insecure. And that false bravado was definitely on stage. And everybody started laughing. But now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so exposed that they can see the false bravado too. Oh man, what's going on? It was the fact that they had seen everybody else and I'm going to win this whole damn show. But I don't know that. So I'm paying attention to the negative beliefs more than the actual reality that I've done the work. I'm going to win this thing. And now it's time to own all of it. So it wasn't until the point by a lady that yelled out, "Smile, you're beautiful," that I realized like, oh, wow, okay, now I can be in my own. So I did the novice and the open so then I could get more practice, because I recognized that if you only do one category, you're up there for, it feels like an eternity, but you're only up there for like a minute and then you're gone. I did, the open, I did the novice and the open. So it all worked out. But after that prejudging, I was like, holy smokes, like how exhilarating is this? So then coming back, then I had like more of a smile, and then I'm like,
the swagger.
Yes. Now I got to take the swagger from basketball, transfer that into bodybuilding, all in my first show. And I won that whole damn show, man. I beat them all down. And what was really cool was that was the same evening that I met Jay Cutler, as he was in his pursuit of becoming Mr. Olympia. So I remember taking the picture with him backstage. I was like, "So, hey man, what do you weigh?" He's like, "I'm 290." And I was like, "Well, I'm 190. Now what?" So we, I'm sure you probably have seen the photo with he and I, and that's how that came about.
So the lesson that I love from this is there's a little bit of a juxtaposition going on here, which on one hand, massive capacity, massive capability, self-belief, but also crippling insufficiency. And that, from somebody that's won all of the world championships, that's so well known, millions of followers, inspired lots of people, I think it's so important for normal people who, as of yet, haven't fulfilled the dreams that they want to be able to understand just how visceral the fear and the embarrassment and the shame and the uncertainty of any glory at all,
right.
And like the fact that it took some little lady in the crowd to shout, "Smile, you're beautiful," to give you the license to believe in work that you'd already done.
Right.
I think there's so much. It's that's as inspiring of a story as winning the Olympia 7 times, I think, because with the future, knowing where you were going to go, but seeing the lack of self-belief, it gives people who right now do not have that degree of self-belief.
Right.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like, even the guy that was supposed to be the gift, he steps out on stage in these tiny pants and he can't believe that he's going to do it. And this lady has to bring him out of his own head.
Yes.
I can do it.
Yes. We all need hope. We all need to, in my opinion, know thyself.
My friend's got that tattooed on his back. He says he always wants Socrates behind him.
Yeah, you have to. You have to be in that pursuit of knowing yourself. You play video games at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Mortal Kombat? Have you ever played that? Back in the day?
Yeah.
As you go up the levels, who do you face? Yourself.
Harder opponents.
Yourself.
Oh. Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
You would have to fight yourself. So to beat the character, you're beating yourself. So that means you have to know everything about you to be better than you.
Well, ultimately, the most difficult enemy that you're going to encounter is going to be yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time, I got this story about Winston Churchill. So Churchill is showing a young MP around the Houses of Parliament. And this young MP, here's the bathrooms, and this is where we go for lunch, and this is whatever, right? And imagine Churchill sort of bloviating around. And anyway, gets down into the House of Lords, and you've got the benches. The distance between the two benches is the distance of two broadswords held out at arm's length,
right,
for precisely the reason that they don't want to do it. And anyway, this young guy who's probably full of himself and full of testosterone comes in and he starts gesturing at the other side, the other benches. He starts referring to them as the enemy. And Churchill turns to him and he says, "That's the opposition, dear boy. The enemy's behind you." And this isn't literally what he meant, but figuratively, I think what he means is that your own worst enemy is always the one that is playing on your team. The person that's inside of your head knows your weaknesses. They know all of the buttons to push that you wouldn't dare say to even your worst enemy. And you will consistently deploy that to you when you've tried your hardest, when you had noble intentions and fell short despite it not being your fault. and you are able to treat yourself like the worst piece of shit in a way that nobody else would. And if they did, they would be out of your life in a moment.
Right.
So I think that, yes, seeing yourself as both your greatest potential fan and supporter and also your worst potential enemy.
Well, you have to, and I agree. I mean, you have to expose the lies, expose all the lies that you tell yourself. Now let's be clear. We have thousands and thousands of years of DNA stored within us. So some of those stories aren't yours. It could be your parents, could be grandparents, uncle, something, right? Expose those lies, man. I've learned now, growing up that, okay, I am good enough. Why am I talking down to myself? Don't I want a championship moment? Don't I deserve that? And all I have to do is give myself permission to be me. And yeah, I may fail, but what drives me is that a lot of the time we're always, oh, what's my calling? And even in that moment on that stage, right, where I still remember the lady's name. Her name was Margaret. She gave me permission to be me. Where are we giving ourselves permission to be our best version of self? You have to give yourself permission every day. You just woke up every day and then first of all, you didn't even thank your body for putting up with your ass. So I should give myself permission and almost declare it every day. Like, I declare that I'm going to go out here and make a difference in my life. I declare that I'm going to go do this cardio that I freaking don't like. I declare that I'm going to eat better. I declare that I'm actually going to look at my wife in the eye and tell her something sweet. Pick up the kids, pet the dog, whatever. Say hello to that one employee that, you know what? Typically, I don't really like them. But today, I'm going to do something different because I'm going to change the pattern. I'm going to change the pattern. And I'm going to make it work for me because this life is worth living. So I give myself permission to be great. And I think what happens is by giving yourself permission, other people see that and they get frustrated because they're like, how did he figure it out? Because all I did was answer the call to my own greatness. Your ass is still wondering where the call is coming from. It's already there. Just pick up the phone and say, I accept. When we don't accept that calling, it then goes to somebody else. Someone else got, hey, who's going to pick up that phone? Someone going to get that? Well, it's for you, Phil. No, oh shit, it's for me. If I don't pick it up in time, the way this works, it's going to go to somebody else and then they're going to get the championship moment. And you and I both have seen this, whether it's been happening in our lives or someone else's life. When they don't pick it up, if you don't pick it up, oh shit, that's when you don't get the girl. You don't get the date for prom that you really wanted. You settled for something else because of your indecisiveness, because of your fear. You didn't get the job. You didn't go to the school. You didn't get anything that you really wanted. And now the person that had half as much as the talent as you, that just took a risk on themselves and gave themselves permission to succeed. And if they fail, so what? You're hating on them. You're talking shit about them. You're saying, oh yeah, must be nice. Must be nice. You get to go on the vacations. Why does he have to? Oh, he's a kiss ass. He's this, he's that. No, you dummy. It was you and your inability to execute. So by me seeing that in myself and being a wuss, I had to eliminate that shit right away because I recognized in certain areas of my life where I did stand up and say, I'm going to do this. What was the outcome? I killed it. If I go up to the squat rack and I see 450 pounds or whatever it is, and I'm like, I've already lost. I have to go into it knowing that I should win because I've trained for this. Now I haven't trained for that. There's danger. There's extreme danger with this and I shouldn't do it. But if I train for this, I should know that, yep, it's heavy. It's going to be heavy, but I'm going to take it for a ride. You ready? And when I pound that chest, oh, I'm ready. And it's me reminding myself who the hell I am. And that way I can then and only then impose my will onto someone else. You can't impose your will on someone else if you don't know who the hell you are. And that's what makes the Michael Phelps slapping the freaking water to the Usain Bolt. You know that it's all effective shit. Michael Jordan, the only guy to ever have his tongue out while he's driving to the basket and dunk on your face. To fly to the Bo Jacksons that, man, I mean, if that guy never got hurt, but did so much breaking bats. This guy was like a demigod and was never afraid of being who he was. So that's why I always admire those people that believe in themselves. And you're telling me that they didn't have moments where they're having that tactical minefield in their head, like saying, you can't do this, Phil. Come on, man. You don't know anything. Oh, you want to be an entrepreneur? You want to run a business? You don't know that. No shit, dude. It's not like I didn't know anything when I picked up a basketball the first time or played the piano or played the freaking Nintendo game. I didn't know. But I had passion behind it. I was curious about it and I put effort into it. And I was passionately present with others so that, I could yield some good wins. And I could easily say I've had more wins than losses. And I'd say more than 95% of those wins come from extreme competitive nature derived by positive belief. Like, you could not be around me at the Olympia and say, hey, Phil, you think you're going to win this year? Get the fuck out of here. Why are you even still standing here? You would not ask a mother that is getting ready to give birth, hey, you ready to, what are we talking about? So, a lot of people can only understand so much of this, right? But in their own lives, I think this is the most relatable thing. Being in relation to, like, obviously I would tell myself, Phil, you're so misunderstood because of what you achieved and this, that. Well, now I recognize it's about what's in here and what's in here that I can give. And this is part of this conversation, is that you have to give yourself extreme permission to just learn and be curious and ask questions and say, man, I don't know, man. Chris, can you've been podcasting, you've been doing all these episodes. I'm just getting started. Like, what do you think the 3 things that I should be doing right now? Do you see anything in me? Because I believe that these are my qualities. And do you think those qualities can be applicable into this? And just sitting back and shutting the hell up and letting people speak, right?
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. It's a healthy alternative to sugary electrolyte drinks, and it is the best way that I've started my morning every single day for over 3 years now. It contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium with no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, or any other junk. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't active for the first 90 minutes of the day, but your adrenal system is, and salt acts on your adrenal system. So if you want to be more awake, want to regulate your appetite, curb cravings, and have better brain health, this is the way to start your day. Head to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom to get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors with your first box. Plus, there is a no BS, no questions asked refund policy, so you can buy it 100% risk-free. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. There's something came up when you were talking about your coach that perhaps from a bygone era would have grabbed you by the scruff of the neck and told you to do that.
Yeah.
Quote from a friend who I was with yesterday says, cry to someone who pities you rather than believes in you. And it makes me, treating self-love or believing that self-love is holding yourself to a higher standard than anybody else is such a beautiful reframe of saying, okay, what do you want? Like, what do you want in this moment?
Right.
Things are hard. The diet is difficult. This business you're trying to get off the ground, the job that you're trying to go for, it's not happening. What do you want? Do you want sympathy? Or do you want me to have higher standards for you than you do?
Thank you.
Do you want me to hold you to higher standards than you do? Because I believe in you. Why do you think I'm holding you to high standards? Do you want me to hold you to low standards?
Yeah. And they wonder why they were getting yelled at by their teachers. Getting the calls home.
See something in you.
I used to get calls home from the teachers, right? Once a quarter. It was like clockwork. Phil's being disruptive. Well, I was probably being disruptive because I had to explain this to my mom. I was like, I'm being disruptive probably because I'm getting my work done first, because I'm like wanting to get this done first so I can be left alone.
Yep.
But then I like turn around. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? You know what I mean? And I get caught. But then I used to I remember on more than one occasion, we'd get the call and my parents would sit me down and just, they ground you. So the parents sit me down and they ground me, right? You said you wouldn't do this anymore. We got to, punishment, no Nintendo, no this, you can't go out with your friends, whatever it is. I go up to the teacher and I'm like seeking retribution, man. I'm like, hey, man, why'd you call my parents, man? You know what I mean? Like, not that I could threaten an adult, but I'm like, but Timmy over here is, throwing pencils and paper and this and that and the other. And I remember this happening on more than one occasion, and the teacher would say, meet me after class. I got to say something to you. And you know what it was? We don't expect something from him or from her, but I see something in you that and your mom told me to ride you. So I'm going home, Mom, man, like, what's going on? And I realized, like, that is a form of love, of saying, like, hold my kid to the higher standard, because obviously they see something that I don't see. Yeah. What do they see? They see talent.
Someone who believes in you, someone rather that than believes pities you.
So, right. So therefore, oh, you got a 3.8. Why didn't you get a 4.0? Come on, Mom. It's like, no, but why not? Why can't you? And why can't you do it for just more than one quarter? Why can't you do it for more than one semester? Why can't you do it forever?
Because we know that you can.
Right. Well, you've already proven it. If you can sit there and play video games for 3 hours, you can read a book for 3 hours.
So this is something that I think is really important to drive home. The better that you get, the better that you realize that you can become. And in that way, the more that you work, the more painfully you become aware of your deficiencies.
Right.
And I think this is anybody that feels like they have potential. The real pain in life is getting to the end of it and realizing that you left something on the table. I think that I had unfulfilled potential. Mm-hmm. I could have done more, and I didn't.
Right.
So in some regards, having a high potential is a blessing and a curse, because the standard has now been set, or at least the ceiling has now been set. And it's a case of, okay, how close of that are you going to get? And that's high. That's really, really high ceiling. That causes discomfort in people.
At some point, for me, I had to realize there is none. And I'm the one that said there's no ceiling anymore. But with that comes with the unknown, and now you have to do the real work, right? So let's just say winning my first Olympia in 2011, you know, you see all those Y's in the road and you're like, oh shit, like I did all this stuff and now it all makes sense. All those things got me to this moment right here. Okay. But next week, I got 3 days of photo shoots and I got to get on a flight to India to go compete against the same people that I just beat. The last thing I need is to let up off the gas and give these guys an opportunity to knock me off, because theoretically they'd say, oh man, Phil got lucky at the Olympia. Now I got to like solidify the win. So how many people think of life like that, of saying, I need to solidify this win. If I was salesman of the quarter, why not of the year? And if I was it last year, why not this year? Yep. And it just goes into that, you gamify your own process. You can't expect everybody to care about your successes more than you. But a lot of the time it happens because you see, you know, your parents see potential, coaches, teachers.
Especially in the beginning when you don't have the self-belief.
Right. So at some point you have to remove that and say, well, I get that and I appreciate that. How about I prove myself right for once? Well, what does that mean? Well, let me just dream. And let's visualize all of it. Let's visualize what abundance really is and realize that there's a pain tolerance involved. But how do I handle that pain?
Talk to me about your relationship with pain.
Well, my relationship with pain, oh man, I mean, we don't have enough hours, but I can give you an example of how I deal with it. Well, you could easily super hyper focus, like going to the gym. Let's say, you know, breakups make great bodybuilders, those type of things, right? We already know that. But I'll give you one, for instance. I've shared this story and you probably already know it. But, you know, a few years back, like 9 years ago, I was actually guest posing in Cleveland, Ohio for Dave Lieberman. Did a great event. You know, I'm posing, I'm having fun, having a great speech. Can't remember everything, but I remember getting like a standing ovation. It was very rare. Like people like, yeah, like this is awesome what he was saying and pouring into us. Then I get in a limo to go back to the hotel where I rinse all the tanning off, and then I go do a meet and greet with like 100 people inside of a restaurant. I found out that my father had passed away, and I had the phone on speaker. And the driver's like, Mr. Heath. And I said, just slow it down a little bit. Slow down the drive, if you don't mind. So I get to the room and I'm like, no tears. Does that make me callous? I'm trying to process this. It's like, well, you already knew that your dad was sick. So this should come with no surprise. You know, it's upsetting. Opening up the laptop and going on Facebook, and then realizing that that's not the way of handling things, because that's how everyone else handles things, and you're not them, and you're not giving yourself a time period of digesting what just happened. That doesn't mean that you're going to burst out in tears. That doesn't mean you're going to yell, but I gave myself permission. I felt like, oh, I need to give myself some time to kind of like just sit with this and ask myself, what does this mean? You know what I got? It's like John C. Maxwell talks about the whisper when you're in silence. You get a whisper. It's usually from above, right? Or your consciousness, like something, that voice in your head, you get a whisper. It says, go to work. You got work to do. And that sounds like my father, right? So I'm like, okay. So I go in the shower, I get everything ready. And all I did was do a nice gesture. I called up my best friend, put him on FaceTime, and your friends kind of know you. So the minute I did it, he was like, no. And I was like, yep. Shout out to tequila, please. Cheers to my pops. That's that. By now, the promoters heard what was going on. They gave me every opportunity to just walk back to the hotel room, get a meal sent up, and call it a night and get on the next flight home. I said, no, I'm good. I just needed this moment. Just make sure there's no pictures. Just me and my boy, we're just talking. And I did that, and I did my job. Because guess what? I'm not the first person to go through this. And I look at it as a badge of honor of how I handle things in battle-tested moments. So I never was in the military, but I always think of that, like people that get those stars, those badges and stuff, they had to go through something. This is my opportunity to say, you know what? I went through this, and now I can help somebody else go through theirs. Could you imagine going through these things? So you talk about pain. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I was upset, but there was no time for that yet. What I've learned is like, you have to still give your body, mind, and spirit an opportunity to let those feelings come. And you can't always push them underneath. And I did that throughout a lot of my career. So I do understand pain of death with my father. His wife passed like 2 years later. Now I got my half brother, high function autistic, perfectly fine as far as like his scholastic achievement is concerned. Super hyper focused in that. Graduated high school at 15, Phi Theta Kappa at 16. But now do I have to change my why to make sure that he's taken care of financially, right? Dealing with a divorce at the same time, of running a business that's crumbling, having the ridicule go online because now I'm the Tom Brady of bodybuilding, realizing also that I'm now chasing, the Jay Cutlers, the Dorians, to now Arnold's of Olympia championships, and saying, why am I doing this? And having the pain of just the physical torture that I had to put myself through. And I put myself through it on purpose because I knew in the end, it'd all be worth it. So I say my pain tolerance, I think is very, very high. I went through divorce, death, business, ridicule publicly. Those are all relatable things, but I did it all while still kicking a lot of freaking ass on Olympia stage. And that made me more powerful on the Olympia stage. So when I walk out, I'm like, you guys have not gone through this. I know your life, right? Because on social media, we all kind of share a lot, and some people overshare. So now I really know what's going on with you. I'm like, oh, you haven't gone through this. Therefore, you didn't have to do some self-work. You have some of these guys had a perfect life, right? I'm like, man, you didn't have these struggles and shit, and you can't even diet. You can't even train. You have a whole entourage picking up your weights and stuff. I train by myself 99% of the time. Oh, I know who I am. Like how Dorian Yates would say, they could never out-train me. They could never that's why they couldn't beat me. I felt the same way. I out-prepared them. I out-motivated myself. When I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, you're here. You're here to work. And you're going to get this job done. And I call myself MFer a million, probably a zillion times, because I also knew what legacy really means. What legacy really means is when you're in the dirt or in some mausoleum or whatever, people have some incredible things to say about you because of what you not just won, but what you provided them. And they knew that even the biggest hater is actually one of your greatest soundboards when you're gone because of what you did. So when I decided to not compete, those biggest haters that were just they weren't driving me insane. I actually enjoyed it. They were the ones that said, man, I wish he came back because I don't see the level of competitiveness in this sport ever again. And man, I wish I could have appreciated him. And I look at that and I say, that's life. Sometimes we don't appreciate it until it's gone, but it's really cool to know that those people that just despised your greatness really embraced your greatness in all essence, because it was a reminder. Phil, he's coming to Olympia. There's a standard. Let's say I came back next year, not this creating any, right?
Careful. The internet's listening.
Right. It's going to, yeah. But let's just say I did, or did the Arnold Classic or something like that. People would get excited. And some people say, oh, we can't do this and that. But then there's going to be a large majority that says, but what if he did? What if he isn't hurt? What if he isn't this? What if he is who he is? They say, well, it's over. It's not just like, oh, he has a chance. It's like, no, it's freaking over. And that was because of the standards that I created for a long stretch of time. It was not luck. And that's why I loved speaking, public speaking, talking to different corporations and talking to C-suite executives about stamina, which is a word that is never used, whether it be in business or in athletics. It's very rarely used. How often do you hear the word stamina? They don't. They talk about peak performance, but peak performance just goes, and it may go down. Let's go peak performance and hold it. That'd be muscular endurance, but I like stamina. Stamina in the bedroom, stamina in the gym, stamina, like stamina, reading a book, but having peak performance with enough stamina, you are freaking unstoppable and you are now a machine. And I love people that are having high standards of themselves because they're always having an endless pursuit of personal excellence. And it weeds out the bullshitters. It weeds out the fakers that we see online. We see so much of it right now. And I think it's our job to do exceptional work on ourselves. So then the consumer of content will realize he actually has proof in his performance based on the journey that he can share, that he's shared. Because, in your life too, you're a great storyteller because you've done work and you've had experiences. Some of the younger people haven't gone through that yet. So we can't talk about things yet. And a young Anakin Skywalker cannot talk in retrospective, like who he was as Darth Vader before he passed. He didn't know who he was until the end. My job is to check in with myself. You know what I'm saying? In different chapters of my life, let's check in. Let's journal a little bit. Let's actually use a pen and paper because we know the neurological connection. Let's do that. Let's look in each other's eyes when we speak. Let's not do this at the dinner table. But let's also give ourselves permission again to acknowledge our failures and trim the fat seriously when possible.
So you start off with the gift nickname. It sticks with you. It's got multiple meanings. It's layered. And then there's a really interesting period, sort of 2012 to I guess kind of 2014, 15, where the Dream Killer comes in. What did you think about having that name?
I loved it. I actually love that one more than the gift sometimes because that's like they say Kobe Bryant, Black Mamba, Black Cat for Michael Air Jordan. Is it Usain or is it Usain Bolt? The Bolt, like all these nicknames, and Dream Killer actually came about because of the fans. After Generation Iron was published, I was getting ready for the 2013 Mr. Olympia, and I had a feeling that was my opportunity to close the door on Kai Greene. Just close the door. Because when the movie would come out, and if I lose, then they're going to watch the movie even though it was based on 2012. Know what game you're playing, Phil. The way people see things on TV, they may not have watched 2013. They may think that's a previous show. Now you're not champion anymore. Now that movie just makes you look like, he fell off. So I put that added pressure on myself and I stepped up to the challenge and I said, you know what? You're going to train harder. You're going to train smarter. You're going to do whatever it takes to, beat the living shit out of them on stage. You're going to, and then I was like, well, how do you do that? I was like, all right, well, sometimes you got to train angry. Take 2011, take 2012, merge them, 2013. And I had one call out that year, right? Well, like I said, after Generation Iron, a lot of people had opinions about me that I felt that was very interesting because it was a docudrama and it wasn't a documentary.
So
right?
Take me through this experience of filming Generation Iron. So for the people that aren't familiar, there's from the past, originally Pumping Iron with Arnold, and then they actually did, was it Total Rebuild?
Yeah, so it was two words, right? It was two names: the comeback and total rebuild, right?
Yes,
it's like different, but the
same.
I
think Pumping Iron's actually free, available on YouTube Premium or whatever at the moment. So anyway, they do this, and then I guess you would say the progeny of that production company decide to come back and show the new generation of bodybuilders, and the key rivalry in this is yourself and Kai Greene. So take me through before it happens. What are you told about it? What's the experience, and what happens after? It
was pretty much exactly what you just said. It's like, we already know Pumping Iron. We're pretty much doing this for the new era. Phil, you're the champion. Your role is the champion. You're defending for the first time. That's pretty much it. We're going to follow you around. They literally parked an RV outside of my house for a week, and they were in my house at the gym, driving with me, doing everything. A lot of hours of content, obviously, that still hasn't been published. You know, maybe they come out with a director's cut later on of me screwing around in the gym, telling jokes, talking shit, you know, like different things. I loved it because I also looked at it as an opportunity to maybe step outside of bodybuilding and go into Hollywood, kind of like what Arnold did. Prematurely, you know, because Arnold did that film toward the end where I'm at the beginning. But I was like, hey, if they pull you away, baby, you'd still be young enough to come back, right? So I go into the show knowing that I have to win. So I did that. And then obviously when it came out, it was good. I mean, I remember seeing the 2 movie premieres in LA and New York, and I was like, man, this is dope. This is exciting. And I'm looking good right now. So I know I'm going to win. And I remember my coach, Honey Ramba, pulls me aside. He goes, this isn't good. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, no, it's a good film. But I think people are going to look at you as the villain. The way they made it seem like you had everything. And I know your upbringing. You worked for everything. And they made it seem like you just, you know, you're driving the Bentley, you got the house, you got 2 houses, you got the, you know what I mean?
Meanwhile, Kai's living in this like one
which is
bedroom.
Complete bullshit. Like, okay, you have this house, but like, I can't even speak on another man's income, but like, you just do, you know, I'm a very logical person. I'm like, the fans, all they have to do is say, well, this guy won the Arnold Classic like a couple times, man. Like, this guy's not broke. He's got a Weider contract. He's got a Muscle Meds contract. You think I know New York prices are expensive, but come on. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this 300 square foot apartment.
Right. I'm like, well, maybe that's just, he keeps that as a studio and maybe has another place, which I think we both know that was probably the case. But Phil, you have to realize they didn't tell you that this is a docudrama. All right. So now, just like I said, when it came out, they had a viewing after the Olympia, after I just won my 3rd title. Could you imagine? I go in there and people are actually like talking shit. So I stand up, you know, with the microphone in my hand. I go, hey, how many of you guys liked it? And some people were like, yeah. And they're like, I was like, you guys thought I was an asshole? People were like, and I'm like, whoa, like let's. But for me, I was at that point. I was like, why? Huh. And then I just accepted it. I was like, you know what? Okay. I can't, you know, I'm not here to change people's opinions of me, man. Like, you know, that takes too much time, energy. You know, that's when social media really started formulating and stuff going into 2014. I'm like, just let your proof be how you win, bro. Like, just win. But now you got to train really freaking angry. And if they want that motherfucker, I'm going to give it to them. You want a villain? I'll give you a villain because I can take it. Every hero became a villain in someone's eyes. You know, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, like they all became the heel at some point. But it's but I was like, yeah. But you know what it was? Remember the movie? What was it? Batman Begins or whatever, and he became like Dark Knight or whatever. And what did he say? When it was like at the end of the movie, and it was like after Harvey Dent got messed up, and they said, well, why did he make it look like it was him? And Commissioner Gordon tells the kid, because he can take it. I was like, Phil, you're the only dude that can take it. All these guys can't take it. They're all insecure. They're all like, if the lights were shining on them and them being misunderstood and having everyone's opinions be spread on them, they couldn't handle it. Only the best, Phil. Only the best can handle it. Only the best can handle the scrutiny. You're going to be the greatest because now they're looking at you with a harsher lens. It is not 10 times, 25 times, 50 times, it's 250 times magnification. Only problem is that sucks is that now I'm being judged that way. Like 250 times magnification.
It's like being back in school with the teachers having a higher.
So now I'm like, okay, that's the shitty part, but just embrace it. Just use it. So I created the shirts. I made the merch, made a bunch of money off of it and played that part. And that was like my alter ego. It's like, so you guys want the dream killer now. And that's when I started being able to, in my opinion, make people afraid. And I loved it because I see you smiling too, you know, like, yeah, because we all have a dark side. And it was about me having that controlled aggression in the gym and even with fans. I mean, I was never rude with fans, you know what I'm saying? Like I meet with them. I did the Make-A-Wish Foundation stuff. I did the autism awareness events and all those things. Now that may be overshadowed because of someone's opinion about Generation Iron. But again, Phil, you have to learn that the people who you aspire to be have the same thing, but 10 times worse. A politician has it a million times worse, right? An actor has it worse. I know actors that have played some great films and people see them on the street and curse them out.
Because they were a baddie in the movie.
Right? And imagine, and so I'm like laughing. I'm like,
yeah,
these guys don't have that common sense, but I'm like, but that means they're that great of an actor. So just use it to your advantage, man. And the problem is like how I can't lie, like sometimes being the dream killer is so fascinating that it's hard to push them away, tuck them away. So then, you know, like my trainer said, like in an interview, a year ago, talking about like Phil Heath, so John Wick, bodybuilding. I'm like,
don't kill his dog.
Don't kill his dog. Don't talk shit about his wife or something like that. It's like, you know.
Talk to me about how you reflect on your relationship with Kai Greene, because people call it the greatest rivalry in bodybuilding, and it's then the stakes are raised with Generation Iron. It's the inception of social media.
Right.
Talk to me about that relationship with Kai Greene.
I think it is the greatest rivalry. I think it's bigger than Jay and Ronnie's just because they were friends. We weren't. And I think we wanted to be friends, Kai and I, but I feel like because of us both wanting something so freaking bad, and during the social media era, one camp, the other camp, they're talking so much and we can see the chatter that it kind of made it look like, so you don't like me, Chris? Okay, it's like high school, you know what I mean? Like, you talking shit? And then all you do is look at me weird and I'm like, all right, what's up? So I know that Kai had to play psychological warfare because this is bodybuilding. It's not MMA. It's not boxing. You know, like it's not even basketball or football, right? It's just a person lifting weights and dieting and doing heavy amounts of cardio and posing. That it's hard to impose your will on someone physically. So you got to figure out how he can beat me. So for him to start a fight, you know, like in 2014, flipping the hair and all this other stuff, I don't blame him. People used to get mad at me for like accepting it. Like in my friend circle, they're like, man, like you're just cool with this.
Back.
But I said, I expected it. They're like, why'd you expect this? I said, listen, it all started at the damn press conference. But I knew he was going to do something. I didn't know what I was going to respond by saying the 3 facts and all this other stuff.
Because he'd signed his name.
Oh yeah,
as Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, he started doing
on your over your face or something.
Yeah. So we have an Olympia poster that comes out every year. So when we get our Olympia credentials, you know, our per diem, all that good stuff, we have to sign a bunch of merchandise. One of it is like a big ass poster that we give out all the VIP holders. So, you know, of course, you know, I'm like, it's front and center. So people are going to sign like maybe the leg or this and that. This fool like took on the face. I'm like, oh, it's like that. And he wrote Mr. Olympia. I'm like, okay. How many times did he do it? For like a whole row of them. I'm like, oh, he's trying to send a message. So, you know, basketball mentality comes out right now. It's like, oh, this is, I love it. The disrespect. I love it. Like now I get to make this more intentional. And he has no idea what I look like. He's then going to try to probably say something at this press conference. Why? Because that's what I would do. Know thyself. Know your opponent. Know how to respond versus react. See, when you don't play through these things, and when you only get fixated on how much food and water do I drink, and yes, I have to do this mundane stuff, you need to work on the mind of figuring out all the different permutations that can exist, all the different scenarios that can happen. That way, you know how to handle yourself and anything that comes towards you. So I gave him what he needed at the press conference, and he had nothing to say after that. And that's when I knew the only thing left was for him to try to do something physical. And I handled it well. And unfortunately, that was like the end of that prejudging.
Yeah, they split you apart, right?
Yeah.
They put Dennis Wolf in between you, and
Yeah,
no one's walking through him.
I mean, in a way, it was effed up because I'm like, we're not performing now. And it was a big adrenaline dump as well for he and I both. I know he probably had it because I was going to say.
So talk to me. You're on stage. You've worked toward this thing for ages. Generation Iron is out.
Yeah, it's already out for the second year.
Yeah. So you've got the Rivalry is not only private, it's public.
Yep.
You've had him signing his name on your face, literally on posters. You've had him talking shit at the press conference.
Yep. And
then you get on stage and he's got this like predator ponytail thing that he whips and hits you with. And then
has something to say.
And then you sort of jostle against each other. And then there's this legendary photo of you finally turning and looking. And it's you guys face to face on the Olympia stage. What's that emotional dump like with all of this pressure and all of this preparation coming up?
It felt like high school when everybody's like, fight, 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 fight. And then you're basically getting into it. And then there was the fans' energy that I felt that got calm, because all you could hear is, if you were there, you would be able to hear Steve Weinberger's voice get elevated, and they turned the music up louder because they wanted, I guess they were trying to drown out the crowd noise. Like it was
cheering it on,
because they kind of were. And then I realized two big ass dudes oiled up and posing trunks supposed to fight? Nah.
You're not paying enough for this.
Nah, exactly. Someone's getting the drawers pulled out. Hey, it ain't happening. That's not the fight that I signed up for. So let's go ahead and calm this shit down and get back to work.
Dennis, get in here.
But you're right. So I realized right then and there, the fans really messed this up, because the fans were egging us on for two years now. Because you got to think, 2012, there was a moment where Kai and I are posing. You know, you do the back shots, and I used to always kind of like, that was in 2013. So 2012, we're doing a back shot. And I look back, I look like this, and I'm kind of like looking at the glutes, because it's kind of like letting the judges know he ain't got what I got. So I was like, come on, man.
Oh, you slapped him on the ass?
I kind of like touch his lower back or something like that.
Should have slapped him on the ass.
And then, so then there's a picture of him like looking at, he was going to punch me.
Yes.
So no one remembers this, right? But you know what it did? That was the no flinch with Matt Barnes versus Kobe. So I was like, yes, I got him.
Yep.
Now I'm in his head. He wants to all right, 2013 Arnold Classic, Madrid. That's when we're doing this. And he's just pissed. And I'm like, got him.
We'll get back to talking to Phil in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Factor. I get asked all the time about how to build and maintain muscle, and the most important thing, the first thing you need to do, is ensure you are getting 1 gram per kilo of body weight in protein every single day. But as you know, if you have ever tried to cook anything ever consistently or stick to your macros, finding whole food, healthy meals that you can have conveniently every single day is difficult. This is where Factor comes in. Their fresh, never frozen meals are designed by registered dietitians and arrive ready to heat and eat in minutes. It requires zero prep. So if you're someone that says, I'd love to hit my protein numbers, but I never have time to cook, prep takes so long and I hate doing it, this is the solution for you. So if you want to make an improvement to your diet, this August you can get Factor and start eating better without the hassle. Head to the link in the description below or go to factormeals.com/MW50 and use the code MW50 for 50% off your first order at checkout. That's factormeals.com/MW50 and MW50 at checkout. How do you think, so it seems like your ability to deal with discomfort, both psychological, physical, is balanced. I think discomfort in the time, but it doesn't seem to echo. You don't seem to ruminate beyond what you need to learn the lessons.
Right.
What do you know about how Kai felt during this rivalry?
Well, he had to feel, of course he's going to feel robbed, right? Because he's going to think, well, I look good too. I put in so much effort. I've gone through so many levels of adversity. I deserve this. And I'm only one person away. One person away. And then once I got him out of my way, I can have everything I've ever wanted. I get to now, every time I see Phil Heath, I see success. I see what life has presented him and what he's been able to experience. And I can't have the same thing without going through him. I got to go through him. So there's a level of empathy I have even now. Like I realize
Have you ever spoken to him?
Yeah, what's very interesting is that we've had a few conversations. Kai Greene gets credit for me because he was the first athlete in the IFBB to call me after I lost in 2018. And he was the only one. He was the only one that picked up the phone. And we talked at length. And that made me feel, I mean, it wasn't like an emotional, like I'm going to cry. It was more like the person who knows me the most is the one that I battled against the most, right? And he basically gave me some much needed words of like, Phil, they didn't beat Phil that I know. They beat an injured one. You're still the best ever. And to hear that, it made me feel good because, well, in my opinion, he was right. And he would know that because he knew what he was going against. And he knows that, man, if imagine the amount of stress Phil had to go through, and I need to reach out to him and let him know, like, everything's cool, man. Well, you're going to be okay. Like, and he was, mind you, 2018. I mean, he was already 4 years removed or 3 years removed because he did the Arnold Australia, I believe, in 2015. So he had already started that transition away.
Yeah.
And I had yet to decide if that was what I wanted to do. So he was giving me an option on that phone call of saying, Phil, now you're at this point where you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. The judges can do whatever the hell they want. You've solidified yourself. Like, I respect you. And I thought, damn, like, thank you. And, since then, I mean, we've always had that, casual. I mean, now, granted, during the conversation, there was still F you, Phil, and this and that and the other, just because it's like, we can't be like Hallmark cards and roses and shit. We still got to be like, I respect you, but fuck you, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I'm cool with it. I saw Kai last year at the Gymshark event here in California, and we both were just like, there's just that vibe. And we both know that it's cool. It's cool to be like him saying, fuck you, Phil Heath. And I say, fuck you, Kai. You know what I mean? Like, it's all, and it's funny.
That's
like,
sweet.
Yeah. It's like a term of endearment.
Yep.
And fans, though, like when they see us in the room, like everyone would get quiet.
Oh, they think there's still genuine animosity.
And there isn't. There's more respect than anything because that's what it should be. But it always was. It's just that when you're battling, we respected the game. When I don't think people have seen, I mean, outside of a Jay and Ronnie situation, two highly competitive people that were boisterous about what they wanted.
Yeah.
We were extremely boisterous. And if that meant that we ruffled the feathers of the opposite team, we didn't give a shit. We just didn't. We couldn't because we needed their support. We needed those fans sometimes to remind us like, yeah, man, like, okay, we got this. I mean, I would see people arguing at the Olympia Expo over who's going to win and this and that. Kai's fans coming up talking trash. And I'm like, I remember posing in the audience and people would, say stuff. And I'm like, what happened to your boy? And then the fans were like, ooh. And it was like it was like some WWE stuff.
Correct.
And as much as some fans want to make it seem like, for me, I was being like extremely like negative or whatever, I was playing along just like them. Because at the same time, I mean, we're providing sports entertainment. And if I can have a little fun with a troll online, I'm going to do it, and because I should have fun. I should have fun with this. This is great. Like, it's really cool that I can have certain types of powers that I can literally transform my physique into something that no one could ever imagine.
Well, think about it this way as well, that it's not just the enjoyment of being the sportsman, but it's the enjoyment of being a personality as well, of, you know, developing a brand. And if the brand for a short amount of time is to be the villain, like no one looks back. Floyd Mayweather, you know, like played for a very long time. He fought on Cinco de Mayo and called it Cinco de Mayweather.
Yeah.
And came out with
the sombrero.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, just a professional troll before the word troll existed.
That's right.
Right?
Do it.
And now looking back, people, I mean, some of his most recent fights maybe has padded his record a little bit. But I think that playing that heel and doing that is, I don't know, if you have the psychology to be able to absorb it and stay equanimous.
Yeah.
I think that makes for a much more exciting, the greatest rivalry in bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have existed had you not have had the rivalry, right? It's not. It wasn't because of the bodies. Maybe it was in some regards, but it was because of the personalities.
Yeah.
That was what made it happen.
And it drove competitiveness.
How much better do you think you became because of Kai Greene?
Oh, extremely. I mean, every year it was like, you get to see him guest pose on the circuit. And you're like, oh, shit.
Did you respect his physique?
Oh, of course. I respected it all the time. The problem is that just because I respect it and I have an opinion of it, like parts of me was like, gosh, all he had to do was be who he was when he did those Arnold Classics and the 2012 Olympia, and he might have got me. Maybe
What
not.
was the difference?
Because he got bigger and he was trying to manage too much size. Kai Greene is probably, if not the most dense bodybuilder we have ever seen. That includes Coleman, like density wise, because you got to think he was shorter than Coleman, weighed nearly as much. And it was like deep cuts, like deep, like very, like slabs of beef. Like when he does the pulling the elbows back and you see the Christmas tree, thick, striated lats. Just very deep. Now he lacked the chest size and the depth with that and the shoulders, so that's why Coleman would get the edge. But you know, people think of Dorian Yates like being very dense. If we could see those two up on stage together, I'm telling you right now, Kai Greene, like because of the quads, because of the side of the hamstring, the hanging of forget it. It was just slabs of beef, dude. Like this is a guy, you've seen him walk around off season, and every 3X pants that he's wearing looks like they're leggings. I mean, it just is amazing. And he was able to keep this condition throughout the entire bodybuilding season. So I would always look at him and say, well, you're not focusing on one major thing, and that is the peak. And bodybuilding is about peaking. You can run the 100 meters in the semifinals and break the world record, but wouldn't you rather do it in an Olympic final? I'd rather do it in an Olympic final. It's more significant then. And it takes more discipline. It takes more strategy. So that's where I looked at bodybuilding. It's like, everything is a strategy. Everything is a process leading up to 2 days. That's it. All I got to do is be ready for 2 days. And that, you know, I was able to do that obviously countless times, but yeah, did he raise my game level up? Absolutely. And I benefit from it.
Give me your thoughts on Chris Bumstead.
Most popular, no rival, really good bodybuilder. I saw him when he was coming up at like, 19, 20 years old. Guys over at Team Muscle Tech used to tell me about him because, you know, Muscle Tech is a Canadian company pretty much. And they were saying, oh, this guy's coming up. And I said, yeah. And and they're like, what, you don't think? And I go, I'm going to treat him just like they treated me, meaning I see big things. And he's done those things. And like I shared with him after his Olympia win, I said, now it's just you. You've solidified yourself in this category where it's just you. You're running by yourself now. You have no equal. And what do? They raise the weight limit up for everybody else. But now he has to realize that what I was saying was true. Because they only change the game when you're dominant. Happened to Coleman with the challenge round. Happened to me when they decided to make the fans a judge at the Olympia table. They actually put that in Flex Magazine by Jim Mannion himself. So then I realized, like, they do this to make it more entertaining.
Needs to remain competitive. And if someone is making it too uncompetitive,
right,
rules got to change.
So, yeah, you're telling me that there wasn't an opportunity to tell Chris maybe this in January? Did you tell all the athletes at the same time? Maybe, maybe not, right? Because there's certain athletes that are going against him right now that are, much bigger in their off season. So it makes you question, did they already know? Or did someone in their camp kind of hear something? Because everybody in this industry can't hold water. So what I think of Chris Bumstead is that he has a great reach, great opportunity, great following, great responsibility, and an incredible amount of responsibility right now.
Why?
Oh man, because look at his demographic. It's like what, 30 and under. It's not 30 and over. It's 30 and under, probably 25 and under. So your legacy is going to be predicated how you become a leader for these younger people. See, I can still inspire these people, but they're going to maybe reach towards someone that is around the same age. So that's why there's a responsibility, because he's not perfect. He's still learning. He's still young.
He's very public about his failings, his insufficiencies, his fears. Dude, I sat down with him for 2.5 hours a few months ago in Florida. I genuinely think he might be the most likable person I've ever met in my life.
Right.
He is so beyond the real deal. Mm-hmm. It's insane. And if there was somebody to be this particular micro generation's fitness leader, people talk about Rogan the same way, especially people that are friends with him, have been friends with him for a long time, and they realize they say stuff like, you do realize how rare it is to have a benevolent king. The guy that's at the top of this particular industry is one who is more concerned with raising other people up than raising himself up, and is happy to just spread spoils all the time.
The timing with Chris is impeccable.
I think so too.
I think that's what helps too, because I would say a Jay Cutler with social media back when he started would be just as popular, if not maybe more. But it's all timing too. And I feel like Chris has done an incredible job at being a champion, being a person of transparency and vulnerability, to allowing people to see, like you said, like the ins and outs, the flaws, the shortcomings.
From the bodybuilding eye, what are you most impressed by with regards to Chris's physique when he steps out to do the classic?
When he decides to do what now?
When he does, because he's in classic at the moment, right?
Yeah, right.
What are you most impressed by when he steps out on stage?
His confidence. This past year, I felt like it was his confidence, because he knew that in order to set yourself apart from other people, you got to know who you are, right? So he knew who he was. He was like, I got to go out there and give them a show now. Now he's looking in the camera. Now he's like, now he's putting on a performance with his posing, even in prejudging. When you get a chance, watch how he walks out now compared to when he first started walking out. Starts to realize he is that Jedi. Not a master yet, but he's a Jedi. You know what I mean? And he's got the look, he's got the stare now. Now he's playing with the crowd, and that's a performer. See, a lot of people in the general public don't realize that we're performers of art, of body art. Now he's willing to show it. And that's what's very impressive. Now I can actually pay attention. Before I would just say, oh yeah, he's champion this and that. This past year I was like, very nice.
Would you, given a second life, would you have ever enjoyed having a crack at classic rather than open? Would you have been interested to see what you could have done had you have had different kinds of criteria?
Put it like this. Naturally, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Like without PEDs, I wouldn't have been able to do classic.
Of course.
So what's the point? I would have been at a disadvantage going against guys that are enhanced doing classic. But I could tell you, I mean, the look that I had, like when I won the New York Pro at 208.5, I guess that's classic. That might have put me in the criteria because I'm 5'9". It wouldn't have been challenging. If you give me the opportunity to go back in time and say, okay, it's 2005, Mr. USA's, you turn pro as an open class bodybuilder, but yet you're still undersized. You're going to compete around 210, but you can have an opportunity to squeeze down and do classic. Would you do it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because to me, Mr. Olympia is the one that can take on all challengers. So the Sandow Trophy exemplifies that. So I need the biggest challenge I can have, and knowing that it's a process. It's a process. I can still get these little wins out the Sean Ray, the New York Pro, the Ironman, but these are little wins, and I can say that I've slayed dragons. David versus Goliath type of stuff. I mean, think about the guys that I beat. in their prime. I went against a lot of guys that are different shapes and sizes, right? Classic would not allow that for me. It would only be him.
Yep, understood.
Yeah.
One of the things that came up in the conversation with Chris, your sport is psychologically, hormonally, physically, pharmacologically very taxing. And I asked him about any concerns that he had around longevity. Were there any points in your career where you were forced to make a choice between, well, if I keep pushing like this, I'm concerned about what this is going to do for my health over the long term? And talk me through that, that mindset when you are faced with those choices.
I love this conversation because I took less than everybody, and I can point it out. I have blood work from the very beginning.
How deep can you go into that?
Okay, so I won to Miss USA taking 500 milligrams of testosterone with a shot of Deco a week. I didn't have any money, but I whipped everybody's ass. First crack at it, and quoted as one of the greatest Mr. USAs of all time. Didn't take growth hormone until my second Arnold Classic.
How deep are we in there?
I turned pro in 2005. We're talking about 2008. I had already won 2 pro shows, and now I decided to take growth hormone for the first time.
And you're still running 500 milligrams of test?
No, I was probably doing like 750.
Yep.
Very minimal stuff. Because here's my thought process with this. You watch Fast and the Furious?
Mm-hmm.
You know this good old saying, too soon, Junior? That plays in bodybuilding. The guy that hits the nitrous too fast in the race loses every time.
Why? Because
that car was little Honda Civic with a little turbo kit and some bullshit. Handmade, handcrafted Ferraris will always beat that shit. And if you put a little bit of a mod on that thing, you can't catch them.
So you're saying that
I rather would build, okay, better analogy. You go Super Saiyan and I can beat you in my base form.
The internet is happy at a
you know what I'm saying?
Dragon Ball Z reference.
So let me go ahead and beat you in the base form. Let me work on the base form.
It seems like
then I can't rely on this stuff, because here with pharmacology and stuff, are you really getting it from a valuable source? Are you getting it from Bayer? Are you getting it from sharing? Are you getting it from these companies? You don't know. You don't work there. You really want to tax your body? You really want to take something that you really don't know that could really hurt you? And now you're becoming a drug addict, buying drugs from someone at a gym. You're buying it from drug dealers. I know drug dealers. I grew up around drug dealers. I know the mentality. I stayed away from that shit because I was like, you know what? Like, let me just go ahead and slowly roll myself into this, because if I want to have longevity after my career, it would be nice to show that my blood work can prove it.
Would you ever release that?
My blood work?
Yeah.
For money? Yeah, I'm not just going to offer it up to somebody, but that's HIPAA. That's a lot of, maybe on my own podcast someday.
Yep.
Okay. So I could walk you through why. Okay. So I did the Arnold Classic in 2007. I had won the first 2 pro shows in 2006, Sean Rave and New York Pro. Realized I needed more time off to do the Olympia. I was going to be undersized. It made no sense to get my ass beat by a bunch of guys that are seasoned veterans. Did the 07 Arnold, placed 5th, first time ever losing, right? Okay. Let me take more time off. Decided to have a deeper off season. Understand that what is the difference between me and everybody else? Well, it was just time. Time in the gym, time in the gym, time in the gym.
Not drugs?
What is drugs going to do? It's not going to shrink time. You need time in the gym. Okay, so it's drugs. So I pound everything, and then what? My trainer said, well, I can get you to Mr. Olympia in 2-3 years, but we don't know what's going to happen after that. So think about that mentality that we see today. Everybody's pounding this stuff. And here's the funny part. The muscle tissue is damaged. The skin texture is completely off. Look, man, you see the skin texture? You see that with anybody else? Probably not. I'm not even running shit, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you build that? You build it with the base form. You know how to come off appropriately. You know how to do stuff like what Arnold would say back in the day. We knew how to do stuff during. It's not an all year thing, because now you become a drug addict. So, you know how many drug addicts are in bodybuilding? A tremendous amount, because they're chasing something, but they're not winning something. So you got to be a fucking idiot to go ahead and take all these drugs, right? Not win, put yourself in not only financial debt, physical debt.
It seems to a lot of people, especially looking at your era.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable that you wouldn't have just been taking everything under the sun.
But why should I when I was able to win my first couple amateur shows clean and then just add a little bit? When I always heard of a finishing touch, that was what was always talked about. And then I also saw guys in Colorado that were running a lot, not winning. I'm like, well, okay, so you run too much stuff. You know what happens? You develop side effects, right? So, well, if everybody's doing it, nah, man, why don't you just be different? Because maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to have to take drugs like this. Maybe I'm afraid of needles. Maybe I'm afraid of what the side effects. Do you own an Anabolics 2000 book? Do you own these different ebooks that tell you the good, the bad, the ugly with it? I studied all this shit. So the last thing I ever, and you know what's funny? The real truth is that what if they started drug testing severely? Severely. I have no base form. I have no base form physically and also emotionally. Take all the drugs away. It's like taking the Instagram away from an influencer. They lose their shit.
What was the maximum that you ever got to in terms of
as far as tests?
Yeah.
1,300. I tried 15 and then I was like starting to get watery. And then I remember, no, I did 15. So I was at 13. Then I was like, let's do 15. And then like another dose later, you know, like another week goes by and I was like, all right, 17 and 5 or whatever. I think because it was like all sustanon and shit like that. I just got more watery. It was just stupid. So then the same thing with growth hormone. Like, okay, so medical journals will state that if you take too much of this stuff, right? Like now you're actually going to inhibit what? More insulin, you know, problems, you know, because I never run insulin, never ran it in my entire life. Never.
Wow.
Never. Give me some money. I'll put on a freaking show, like hand on Bibles, like lie detector test, but you're going to pay me that $1 million because I'm going to take all your damn money. I'm going to take it all. So anybody out there want to challenge, just put the money up and I'll do it on national television. I don't give a damn, but you're going to pay me though, because you're not going to put me through this bullshit and me not get something out of it. So there's that part. But, you know, I messed around with Tren and stuff like that. But even that, I realized how harsh that is. That's just stupid. It literally says like liver, kidney damage and all this. I was like, that's not happening. And you know what's funny for me? What's funny for me is that I tried it enough to realize that I have high prolactin levels when I take it. So, so you got high prolactin. Now you take Dostanex. Why am I doing this? I'm adding all these things in. Why don't I just focus on the training and the modalities that I'm talking about? Like I'm the one that did the infrared saunas. I'm the one that bought the Fataris 320. I'm the one that did, you know, neuromuscular massage. I'm the one that's doing, you know, DRX 9000, you know, with the decompression of the spine and stuff like that while taking acupuncture, while doing stem, while doing oxygen all at the same time, living in Denver, Colorado. I'm that dude. You can't name another fucking athlete that do. All you see is cold plunges and dry needling and scraping, which is stupid as hell because you see how they scraping and they're scraping people doing the Graston when they're their blood blisters and stuff. That's not going to yield any growth. That's just being dumb. So look, you know, my drug use was very minimal because I understood that there was life afterwards. I had some favorite, you know, PEDs and stuff like that, like, you know, like Winnie, stuff like that and growth. But I mean, I just made sure that I took enough to get the job done because again, if they were ever going to start testing for shit, I needed to be ready to just be like, I don't need this.
I have a foundation.
I got a foundation. And you look at me now, people say, oh man, you look younger, you look this. Guess what? Because I treated my body right. You got these other guys, and I also didn't have social media. Here's the thing. When you don't have magazines, you got social media. A professional bodybuilder right now is actually having to decide if they're an influencer or a bodybuilder. You see what I'm saying? An influencer can get on some cycles and stuff, almost look like a pro, which they try to do. They take all the best angles and the lighting and all this other shit. Some Photoshop their shit. They sell courses, they sell products and stuff. And they do it for a short period of time, right? But they can create like 1,000 episodes within 6 months. And then they can kind of just not do events because you don't see a lot of events with them and they can just dress normally because they're not a pro or whatever, right? Pro bodybuilders now feel like they have to compete with them and they share the same sponsors. So unfortunately, the owners of these companies just focus on certain levels of engagement. Now for a bigger person that weighs over 240 to 270 to 200. Now, how many 300-pound bodybuilders do we have compared to Ronnie's era? A ton more, and they don't outmass Ronnie with quality muscle. Why? Because they're taking drugs more than they're actually doing the work. They're not allowing the body to catch up.
So you think that one of the problems with the current generation is an over-reliance on PEDs?
Bro, you see it on TikTok. You see it on YouTube. What are we talking about mostly on it?
Natty or not?
I'm sorry?
Natty or not. That's like the thing, right? That's the meme at the moment.
And none of them are. Show me what you look like in high school. Show me that you have the actual integrity that you can do this for a long period of time. Majority of these people are showing they're sensationalizing drug use. They're no different than a drug addict.
We'll get back to talking to Phil in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Gymshark. Gymshark make my favorite training kit. In fact, all I'm wearing right now is Gymshark, and these studio shorts, these training shorts for men are the greatest men's training shorts I've ever found, and I've tried pretty much everything. I love the fit, I love the color of all of the stuff that Gymshark make, and these studio shorts for men have lasted me way too long. I got these over a year ago and they still look fantastic. They've even started branching out into graphics tees now. This old school one, plus the t-shirt you might have seen me wearing in the Chris Bumstead vlog, are just so cool. They have free returns for 30 days so that no matter where on the planet you buy it with their international shipping, you can buy it risk-free. Also, they just updated my super secret product page with everything that I use and recommend for men and women. Check out all of those pieces at bit.ly/sharkwisdom and use the code MW10 at checkout to get a 10% discount site-wide and worldwide with no minimum order size. That's bit.ly/sharkwisdom and MW10 at checkout. You mentioned that Tren, and this is something that Chris brought up, and I thought it was really, really telling that both of you guys have said this. It was something that he tried. He's got autoimmune disorders.
So he definitely can't be doing that.
No, and he was like, it's just way too toxic. But he conceded that it got him to a place during some particular competition that he would struggle to get back to. Now he's got more size and he's got blah, blah, blah. But there was certain elements that it facilitated in his performance.
Oh, like as far as like physical hardness
maybe
of the muscle, conditioning and stuff like that. I can understand. I can understand that.
So for you said that insulin is something that you didn't want to ever touch. Tren would be something else. Was there anything else that was completely off the table for you? Or why with them or anything else as well?
Well, I felt like Tren usage, first of all, again, we're not in the old school era where you're getting like real parabolin and stuff. So you don't really know. So, and then look at the color of it. Looks pretty gnarly, man, when you're injecting something.
What's the color of it?
It looks like orange. Like, you really want to put something that toxic in your body? Like, I don't know, man. And then what people talk about, like, okay, well, it has to have a filtration rate of such and such with benzoyl alcohol, and therefore you're going to have the Tren cough and blah, blah, blah. Man, why am I even wanting to go through this shit? How many times did I sit there coughing my lungs out because of this damn drug? It's like, is this really necessary? Can I just do something else?
And why not insulin?
Why do I need it? I'm already winning. Why do people do it? Let me ask you, why do you think people do it?
Because they want to be bigger and leaner.
It makes people leaner? I think they suffer from the fact that they want roundness. They want fullness in the muscles because it's the most anabolic property in the body, right? So they figure like, oh, if I take this, I look bigger. And I think I have some of the most well-rounded muscle we've ever seen. Why do I need more? I just need more separation. I need more striations. I need more. And that's what I need.
But that could, for instance, let's say that it was more dryness that you were going for. It was more separation in the muscles that you were going for. That could have encouraged you to run a shit ton of something else, a shit ton of growth hormone, a shit ton of Winstrol, a shit ton of something else.
If you do that, you're only going to get, now, all right, so you could use Winstrol, for instance. You're going to do that, and now you got, water-based drugs mixed in with oil-based drugs. You're going to have pockets, bro. Like, you're going to run out of spaces here. If you notice that my shoulders, like even recently, they are more striated than majority of people that compete. Why is that? Because they're doing they're pinning all this other shit in there.
Oh, so there's just site inflammation.
Of course. And the judges don't even know any better right now. They just look at it like, well, it looks round and this and that. They don't. How do they know? They're going from old school, like how it's supposed to look. And
so I suppose,
who has striated shoulders? Damn, right? Damn. They only got this part. They don't even have striated rear delts. Only for the day of the show. Now, some of them do. Don't get me wrong. Like, some of them do. But, you start seeing all of this, I mean, you give your dog insulin enough, they're going to develop scar tissue. You know what I'm saying? So like, these guys have to be very worried, in my opinion, that with all the abundance of these new drugs that are available and peptides and stuff like that, you got to be very careful. And then you have to ask a question, how much blood work is being talked about? These guys aren't talking about, they'll talk about it a little bit. Oh yeah, my doctor said. No, they didn't. What doctor are you really dealing with? Have you done a Boston Health scan? I have. You know what I'm saying? Do you actually know what parasites you have? I have. I've done a GI map and stuff like that. This is what we're talking about. If you were able to even do a certain amount of breath work, you would actually get more oxygen into the body, which would make you bigger, you know?
Dude, your more holistic approach to this stuff, I think would surprise an awful lot of people. An awful lot of people.
Yeah, because they assume, I just took a bunch of drugs and this and that, you know, eat, because that's simple. Because everybody could do that. It's like, nah, man, in order to get 7 Mr. Olympias amongst these guys, you got to do something they ain't doing. And what they're thinking you're doing is drug related. I'm thinking, well, nah, man, like for 3 months after the Olympia, I go vegan, right? Or something like that. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to come off of all supplements. People would say, oh, Phil's not that big in the off season, this and that. It's like, yeah, man, I'm letting my body heal. The war's over for now.
Chris does the same. Chris has obviously he doesn't need to hold quite as much size.
Well, he also learned from guys like myself and Jay and other people probably too, of realizing like, you want to do this for a long time, you got to treat your body right. And he's being smart with the modalities that he has and the money that he's, you know, earned, you know, getting the stem cells and doing all this other stuff. I mean, it's smart. I didn't have that shit. You know, that was one thing man, if I'd have had that, but you know, I was always looking, and I still do to this day. I think what we're seeing again, you know, like drug addiction, how much you taking? And then I have to ask them like, man, you look like that. And that's what you're taking? That means you need more time in the gym, just training and dieting. Short gratification, short term, man.
What do you think?
It's not good.
What do you think the most sort of egregious use is at the moment? What would you guess that?
I hear a lot of kids talk about Tren like nonstop. That's all I hear. And I'm like, why would you want to talk about the most dangerous drug around? I mean, I get it. Like you want to run a little bit of testosterone or something like that. But man, these are also kids. Your natural testosterone is already through the roof. And the problem is, imagine that. All right. So you got kids that are 18, even 17, on up to their mid to late 20s, buying God knows what, bathtub drugs, or with, you know, they're getting the old Mexico stuff with the perros and gatos on them. You know what I mean?
Dog. Yeah, precisely.
With the little rabbit on there or something. I don't know, kangaroo.
Yep.
All for the, oh, yeah, man, that Tren, bro. Like, you know how dumb you sound? You sound like a fucking clown. It ain't gonna be funny when you're in your 40s, if you make it. You know what I'm saying?
We've had some, you know,
right,
prominent deaths.
Yeah, or people that couldn't continue to compete because these things. And I refuse to, you know, co-sign this. I'm even the guy that realizes that diuretic use is a big deal.
How so?
Because, man, that's that's blood pressure meds, man. Like, what are you doing? So you're trying to get, you know, more water out, right? If you abuse that, you know it can happen to you, right? I mean, you can die, right?
Is that something that you were very conscious of?
Yeah, because I know how to read. What does this do? Do I really need it? Why do I still have water on my body? Because you have more fat on your body, Phil. Why don't you just do more cardio, man? Why don't you just over cardio yourself? Overtrain yourself so you don't have to do that. You know why my muscles popped and were round and this and that and the other? It's not because of fucking insulin. People thought like, oh, you dummies. I train a certain way. I wasn't trying to max on bench and squat and this and that. I was going for more volume, using what I have. Okay. I just needed more density over time. I already had the roundness when I was playing basketball in high school and college. I already have this. Use what I already got. I'm not afraid to diet. Oh, you need to get the water out. Oh man, this prep hurts. You know, I can't drink any water. All right. Well, you know, I only had 2 water breaks in a college practice. You know what I'm saying? Like at the beginning and in the middle. Right when you walk in, you may take a sip of water. You take some while you're shooting free throws after you ran. We used to do this workout called 316s. So before that, you know, you do all your drills And then you have like a mini game, 5-on-5 mini game, 20 minutes running clock, going over, game plan, this and that and the other, but you're going hard, right? But it's 20 minutes running clock. So you gotta go hard. Game speed. Playing 20 minutes running clock, game speed is hard. And then after that, you got to run 3:16. So 3:16 is sideline to sideline 16 times, end to end, 16 touches in 1 minute with 1 minute rest. And then you do it again, 1 minute, 1 minute, and then at 3:16 in 6 minutes. And then you go shoot free throws. And if you don't make over 70%, you got to get online.
Online?
On a line. You got to run more. Now you just go down and, not side to side, right? I know what it feels like to be parched. You know what I'm saying? So like when it was time to cut water, I'm like, it sucks, but the only thing that sucked was having to eat while being parched, being thirsty.
Oh, interesting. So you got
but I didn't have all that, like, I can't think. I can't this. I'm like, I've already been prepped for this. Now I'm already having more confidence knowing
everyone else is suffering.
Everyone else is suffering. I'm suffering, but I know what it is.
Talk to me. You've alluded there to differences or a uniqueness in your training style. What was it that what were the principles that you attribute your success to from a training standpoint?
Knowing who I am. It all goes back to knowing who you are. I'm not a guy that was bench pressing 500 pounds in college. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't that dude. I was strong, but I wasn't one of those guys. Like, so you got to know who you are. Like for me, never bench pressed over 5 plates. I did 5 plates before, and that was a lot. Like,
what's that?
495. Right. So like, all right. So let's just say 500 pounds, I think that's good enough for a 1 rep max. There's guys that can rep that out, but I'm like, but I beat them. So it's not necessary. What's the degree of difficulty to where, where's the point of no return? Meaning I'm getting diminishing returns, potentially getting injured on a back squat, leg press. I had to know what those numbers were.
But as you get stronger, your 70%, 80%, 85% 1RM for, like hypertrophy range reps, that still continues to go up, right? Because you are getting stronger over time. Mm-hmm. So presumably, like, you're still having to ramp that up.
Yeah, but I also train by myself. So you want to go put 700 pounds on your back by yourself? Be my guest. Or you could put 3 plates or 4 plates and rep it out 20 times. My leg workout, let's say for 2012 and 2013 Olympia, 5 sets, 20 rep, 315 squats with 2 minutes resting period.
Take that from the top again.
So you do leg extensions for pre-exhaustion.
Yep.
Just do like 3 working sets for 20 or whatever you want to do. Then you go into back squats. You warm up with the 135 to 225, and then you throw 3 plates on, 315 on, 3 on each side. You do that 20 reps. Take 2 minutes and do it again. And do that for 5 reps.
5 rounds.
5 rounds of that. Sorry. Yeah, 5 sets of that. And
that's probably only a 12-minute workout. And
then you keep going. Now you're still doing your vertical leg press, your angle leg press, your walking lunges. Now we go into hamstrings.
Okay, so
now you're doing the calves. And now you're going to do that 3 days later. And you're doing that while you're still doing cardio for the Olympia on the step mill. You're still doing that, squeezing your glutes every repetition, not actually leaning over the fucking equipment like everybody else because they're a pussy. You're actually standing up straight. And if you are holding it, it's just so then you don't fall. And you're stepping and you're squeezing and you're building your legs while you're doing it. And you're doing it for 40 to 45 minutes, once, if not twice a day. That's how I got the striated glutes. That's why you saw all the cores running down my hamstrings that no one else has. You know what I'm saying? So I made it difficult for a reason, because I knew if I could train by myself doing that, I'm going to be better than everybody else. But mind you, yeah, if I did have a spot, I still wouldn't say, hey man, let's go do, 5 plates, 6 plates. I've done that. And it's like, if I'm going to go more than 4 plates on the back squat and I feel really strong, instead of putting another 5th one, how about I just do front squats with 4 plates? Let's just do that.
Change the angle up.
Yeah, just change the angle up, because now we're running into a point where my body's going to be conditioned to lift all this crazy ass weight, and I may not be getting the muscular activation that is necessary to proliferate the growth and the separation that I need, so then I can compete. Because you can see how the muscles grow. Like, not that I did, but I had the mind muscle connection. I know when things are firing. I have enough low levels of body fat to see things moving. If I don't see the things moving, I got a few things to register. Data. Maybe there's a compression in the disc, so let's make sure that I'm getting the chiropractic, the acupuncture, and the decompression going, right? Because if something's compressed, it's hitting the nerve, and I'm not getting the firing.
You can't power it. Yep.
So, I'm always paying attention to all these things.
It seems to me that you're talking about volume here in a way that I think a lot of people wouldn't typically have thought of. Anything over 14 is cardio is a meme, but
I never heard that. So that's what they say?
Anything over 14 is cardio. It's like a bro meme.
So these bros have never won a fucking Sandow, and that's the problem. So they're doing this shit because they are young and they haven't tried anything long enough. They're expecting such a vast amount of muscle or weight gain, and then they're like, well, no, you need to do it this way. It's like, keep doing it that way, and let's see what you look like. But first of all, let's analyze your goal. What is the goal? You want an aesthetic goal to compete and be somebody? Let's see what you work out at. Let's see how this works. Let's really quantify these things.
So you're playing with reps, rest, and intensity.
Yeah,
here.
I want intensity here. I want to make sure that I can do it, right? Am I the one saying like, oh yeah, 25-pound dumbbells is going to build you 23-inch arms? No, what I'm saying is that you need to definitely produce enough strength to grow those big muscles. But at some given point in time, is it necessary to curl a 100-pound dumbbell to get those arms? No, I proved it. I also proved to grow a back. If you see my back from the amateur ranks through the first years as a pro to the end, one of the best backs ever, right? I did that with no deadlifts. Show me a video of me doing deadlifts.
Why?
Because I wanted to prove that I could do it without it.
But why not? What were you doing instead of deadlifts? What was your issue
Bent
with deadlifts?
rows. Because, when I was getting ready for the USAs back in 2005, I kind of had an accident. I was doing like 625 conventional, not sumo, conventional. And I felt something in my neck and I was like, that's fucking stupid. So sometimes you get a tap on the shoulder by an angel that's saying, hey, I covered your ass this time. Next time that pop may be something. So I was like, all right, this is me talking to Hani Rambo, my trainer. Hani, what do you think I should be doing? He's like, all right, if you're going to do deadlifts, just do them with dumbbells or like do it like a rack pull or something like that. So have I done rack pulls? Yeah.
Because rack pulls, to that bottom end of range.
Yeah, because rack pulls, you know what I can do? As I'm coming up, I can rotate right here. And I'm now squeezing. If you keep your chest up right here and, you're like at that 90 degrees and you kind of pull back, you feel it in your lats.
Yep.
That's all I have to replicate. For me to have to go all the way down and then do for what? I get it. Like, I'm not saying that people can't do it that way. I'm saying for me, this way worked.
So from 2005, you basically didn't deadlift for the rest of your bodybuilding career.
No, from that point in time, especially during a prep, like I said, if it was not in one of my like DVDs, it probably never happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that for the rest of time, you only had 10 exercises to hold on to and grow as much muscle as you could. What would you choose and why? Incline
presses, no question about it.
Dumbbell?
Dumbbell more likely because, it's just, you can do a lot with the dumbbells over the barbell, right? I always want that shelf up here. It looks great in t-shirts. And if you're hitting a side shot, you want the upper pec development to exist.
Dude, there's something about that angle that's so comfortable as well.
Yeah.
It feels so nice. It feels right.
Yeah.
It feels right.
Yeah. You don't feel as much in danger.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Even when you're doing flies, like you can do that. It just feels so good, Yep. So that would be one of them. Side laterals for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Dumbbell lateral raise.
Mm-hmm. Standing, seated?
Standing for sure.
And what were your cues on this?
I knew you were going to say this. Yeah, from the side.
Are you out to the side? Are you out in front a little bit here?
I'm
what are you
right
thinking?
Here. To the side.
Yep.
To the side.
Are you leading with elbows, leading with arms?
More just, I guess that would just be with arms, right?
Yep. Because sometimes you see people almost flaring up with dumbbells down.
But as you did that, your traps moved.
Yep.
So I don't need that.
Yep.
I don't want that. Lower trap, now that's going to, I just need to get it. If I'm working this, I understand it's a secondary muscle, but I don't need to be.
You're isolating.
Because you end up doing this. You see guys like they come down and then they're doing this. You see it. Why is that moving? Can I deactivate it? Sure. Right here. Okay.
Cool.
Let's do that. So, okay. Oh, one-arm preacher curls.
Dumbbells again?
It could be on a machine or dumbbells, but since we're going to, only have some dumbbells on a deserted island, we're going to do that.
You can use whatever you want.
So
you got the best gym in history, but you can only use 10
definitely
things.
a preacher curl.
Okay. And why single?
Because I can concentrate more on one arm than two.
Mm-hmm.
I can also isolate and understand why is one arm stronger than the other. And am I performing the rep the same on either arm? Now, if I'm in a fixed position, I can't tell. So I need to see. I need to feel. And I need to physically see this. So I need.
Are you supinating on that, or are you going to stay?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. But I also got to recognize, like, am I having any, bicep tendon stuff and shit like that? And which I actually have right now. I'm like, damn, like, okay.
Feel it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 3.
So that's 3. Hack squats for sure. For sure, hack squats. Oh my gosh, it just feels incredibly strong to be in that position. I love it. I did a lot of damage on that machine.
What are your cues when doing hack squat?
Well, the platform. I can go wide, I can go at the top, I can go at the bottom, I can go narrow. I like to go a little bit more narrow.
You can have that. That can be all part of 4.
Exactly.
Okay,
see, but it's all the same machine. Yeah. So
you're playing the system. Okay, so there's 4.
Okay. This is fun. Rear delts, but face pulls with the rope.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah. At around about eye height.
Yeah. Right here.
Yep.
Since we're using that rope, tricep extensions.
Overhead.
Down.
Okay. Yep.
So that's what, 6?
6.
6.
Yep. 4
okay.
more.
4 more. You got to throw another chest movement in there. So, we did the incline dumbbell press. We got to have an incline dumbbell fly.
Why put both of those in? What are you getting out of the fly that you're not getting out?
Getting a good stretch, and I'm able to contract, differently as well,
Mm-hmm.
working that same plane.
Rear delts. What about
back? We got to throw some back in there. So underhand barbell rows, underhand.
Bent over
rows, underhand.
Yep. What's your reason for going underhand rather than overhand there?
Because I've noticed that overhand, I'm getting more of. Initially, you're going to feel it more in your forearms right here.
Yep.
And I'm only going to get so much, and I feel like it's more like there's more margin for error, I believe.
Yep.
Whereas if you're coming here, I don't feel it as much, and it's simulating what I would do on stage, pulling the elbows back. So
would you do? I guess a part of that as well is restricting the injury risk from being bent over so much. Like underhand, you're always going to be a little weaker. So would you do that from a rack rather than from the floor?
Oh, I've done that from the floor.
Right.
Yeah, I've done that from the floor.
A lot of axial loads being at that angle in your lower back, but it's much less than a deadlift, I suppose.
Yeah, but sometimes you can go to like a squat rack, and then it'll have like the little bars there,
Safety
so you can
bars.
pull. So you get safety bars, so you just pull it off of that.
Cool. Okay, I think you've got 2 left.
So I got 2 left. Ooh, boy.
What have we got? Let's recap. So we've got the incline.
You got incline dumbbell, incline fly.
Lateral.
You have lateral raises.
Yep.
You have hack squats.
Yep.
You have single arm preacher.
Push downs, face
push
pulls.
Downs, face pulls. And then
bent over underhand.
You know what? I'm going to go with pull-ups.
Neutral, underhand, overhand.
Overhand wide. And I guess last one would be
another legs.
Step mill.
You can use the step mill as the 10th exercise. And did you
because I can carve out the legs. I can, I can do glutes with that.
Did you ever do that weighted?
Yeah, actually I did. I wore a weight vest for, what show was that? It was early in my career. I would wear like weight vests, and I would wear like ankle weights, and I did something that no one else ever did. I was using E-stem units while I was doing cardio.
Like a Compex?
Yeah, I used Compex because I was sponsored by them for a while. So I was doing Compex on step mill.
Dude, anyone that thinks that electric stim training is not like put an SP6 or an SP8 on you and turn it up to 25% and try and do an air squat.
Yeah.
And tell me that it's not absolute agony.
That would, the only thing I think now is like, you know, the neuroplasticity and like also like neurofeedback you get by using one of those machines. I would love to be able to test that because I think with it doing the work kind of for you, you may lose some of that. Yeah. So you have to be careful, I think, with overloading it.
Yes, because you can push it further.
You can push it further than you can really do it. So I know I did that, but I'm an extreme athlete, you know, with that.
When it comes to the stepper, very, very popular cardio exercise for bodybuilders. What are people missing? What are they getting wrong when you see other people?
They're hugging the damn thing. You know what they're also doing by doing that? They're rounding out their back. And you think about doing this. Just me doing this right now, like that doesn't seem comfortable. Why not just stand straight? Just slow it down. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe not having that 5 or 6 because and you hear that person stomping on the damn things. If they weighed 250 pounds or something like that, you know their knees would be shot. Their knees would be toast.
So you're using control even on the step.
You should have it at level 1, level 2, and slowly do it. Now the reason why you won't do that, ladies and gentlemen, is because it's boring. But think about how much muscle activation you can have on that with your glutes and quads, with each step actually being purpose driven. So my whole mentality when I would do cardio, man, I'm giving y'all all the damn secrets, man. Put it like this. You got to gamify your cardio as much as possible. So if you could have every step count towards something, you could actually sculpt glutes, quads. And isn't that the whole point of doing cardio? Or you just want to sweat? You just want to sweat and burn calories?
What's the difference between just sweating and having a count?
I'm building muscle. Wouldn't it be great if you could do cardio and build muscle at the same time? Yeah, but Phil, like I got to slow it down and I got to squeeze. Yeah, you're being more intentional. Just like if you were doing eccentric movements. I'm being more intentional. This is bodybuilding, man. That's bodybuilding. It's not always going to be as fast as you want it to be. It's not about you anyway. It's about your muscles. It's about using these machines to make them get the maximum benefit while reducing the most amount of physical strain on your ligaments and joints.
It seems like getting your ego out of the way is a big...
How are they going to do it when they got a rooting session for them at the gym? They got to be by themselves. And a lot of people can't have that option. So granted, like I had keys to a gym and all this other stuff, but you know, I was raised as an only child. So I knew who I was a long time ago. Yeah. So you get it. That's why we get along, man. Like, yeah, you know,
I was interested in this. You can call it the only child effect. I think every only child that I know, there's not actually that many, has a degree of introspection. Some of them, more frequently have a degree of introspection that is rare. I think not always adaptive or useful or enjoyable. And even in me, like sometimes, especially when I was in my teens and 20s, I kind of wish that I could have switched it off. But now it's one of the things that I enjoy the most. I enjoy my degree of introspection. I enjoy the conversations I have with myself.
Yeah.
What have you reflected on about how being an only child impacted your mindset, your approach to all of the things that you've done across your career?
I'm my own first responder. No one's going to save you, Phil. You have to be your own responder. You want something in life, you have to want it more than anybody else. And you have to assume that there's no one else to help you. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to wait for your cousin or your big brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they have no big brothers or sisters, right? So that means you got to fight your own battles. That means you have to be more calculated. You can't be like the other jackasses, you know, walking home from school, picking a fight with you because they got the bigger, because they got the bigger brother that'll beat your ass if you decide to beat him up, right? So you got to be smart, right? You got to be like, all right, but maybe I am willing to do that one day, right? Because I'm calculating on how I'm going to do it. You got to know self-love. You got to understand the words that you tell yourself mean something. Because if there's no one pouring into you, like a big brother or sister that tells you like, oh, Janelle didn't like you because of this, or this is how you talk to her next time, or, or John, just doesn't get it. And, this is what,
There's
how
no
you
regulation outside of
you need to really have your own data and then ask yourself questions at a very early age, right? Emotional regulation. And I would say for me, it was great that I grew up in the 80s where, I was a huge martial artist fan and I loved Bruce Lee. So I started, taking martial arts and competing in competition. So it was about you and focus. So when I would be by myself, I'm like, I can
like
do
Bruce Lee.
I can be like water. But empty out my cup and understand that there's things I should learn and play life with your eyes. He's doing something stupid. I don't need to be doing that. Let me pull myself out of bad situations.
Let me give you a model that I absolutely love. It's the reverse role model. So I grew up in a very working class area of the northeast of the UK, famous for only having the highest teen pregnancy rating in the UK, which it then lost. So it didn't even have that anymore after a little while. And there were some people that had certain characteristics like the sort of person I wanted to be like, but there were far more people who were like the person I didn't want to be like.
Yes.
So I came up with this idea of a reverse role model, which is I could look around the cricket club that I played at or the school that I went to or wherever I was and say, okay, I really don't want his relationship with his wife, and I really don't want the way that he treats money, and I really don't want his gambling addiction. I don't want the way that he speaks to his friends.
So good, man. Yeah.
I really think that much of success in life involves avoiding pitfalls more than expediting successes.
Yeah.
There's a rule from mathematics called never multiply by zero. And it means that if you take 1 million multiplied by 3,000 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 444 multiplied by 0, you get 0, right? You never multiply by 0. And an example here might be you spend all of this time eating organic, you avoid seed oils, you make sure that your blood work's done, but one day you decide to drive your car without a seatbelt. All of that good work, 444,000 times 1 million times multiplied by 0. You spend all of your teens being responsible. You go to college, you get the degree, you start to build up a really great life, and you're just about to go and start traveling the world, and you decide to have unprotected sex with somebody, and someone gets pregnant, and it's an accidental pregnancy. It's not quite 0, but your life has now taken an unbelievably different path.
Choices and consequences. And absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I think trying to find examples of people like the person you don't want to be like is maybe more valuable than having role models like the person you do want to be like around.
100%. I mean, like I said earlier, play life with your eyes. Observe. And then ask yourself, does that you want to be like that? Because you're hanging around them. It was interesting. My booking agent, Thomas, we were in the Uber heading over here. And a gentleman that was driving happened to be in the same neighborhood as me growing up. Very crazy. And we were basically talking about, he was sharing about a person that we knew. They got shot and killed out here years ago, playing the NFL, this and that, So anyway, and I was like, man, over a traffic stop, one decision of getting out of the car, being this big ass dude, charged the cop. Now, were they supposed to shoot him? Hell no. But emotional regulation. That one decision, he paid the ultimate cost. So where I grew up, very synonymous, like style, like what you're talking about. We used to call people stumble bums. Stumble bum, like you're going to be a bum one day because you're stumbling over, you stumble bum. I saw drug dealers. I saw a lot of drug use. I saw teen pregnancy. My first high school dance ended up in a friend's brother getting shot in the face 6 times about 10 yards away from me. So I had to understand, like, you start hanging around certain types of people, bro, like you're going to be around more bullshit. So now you got to realize also, this is why your parents would always try to be overprotective and tell you what to do. And it's not, all right, so you can't always be defiant. But then you have to play life with your eyes and know that there's a certain time that you should probably head home. That kid don't have curfew because maybe his parents just don't care. Maybe his parents aren't there, but yours are. So you need to make better decisions because your choices will always yield either positive or negative consequences. Better put them condoms on, boy, because you just might get a kid out of it. Is that what you want? No, then either don't have sex or be protected, right? And my high school so damn ghetto. I mean, I hate to say this, but like, it was ghetto there, but it was smart. We had a teen health center inside the high school. You can go get condoms. You can go get checked for STDs, all this stuff, because it pregnancies and, STDs and stuff. So we're trying to be preventative, knowing that kids aren't going to listen. In fact, it's just funny. Like when I graduated college, I remember my stepdad, my mom was like, you made it. I was like, yeah, I made it. And I'm like, Pop,
made it out.
Well, Pop said, well, you didn't get a girl pregnant. You made it and you didn't get a girl pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Forget about the diploma.
Forget about the degree and all that shit. You did all that without, causing any trouble. But what we're talking about too, Chris, is that we built social equity throughout all the decisions. All of the no's that we told friends or family or even that crazy bastard on our arm saying, go do this. We said no because we were driven by our legacy. We're driven by something that we dreamed about. And we knew that getting behind the wheel of a car while you're inebriated is just too much of a price. I refuse to do that because, man, do I really want to be in the paper for that? Do I really want to kill somebody or myself or one of my friends? Do I really want to, this is crazy, but I mean, it's just like, you playing life with your eyes. I remember when Len Bias died. Famous basketball player. He was drafted by the Boston Celtics. This guy was going to be better than Jordan. Okay. Like just imagine this, like, you have like a big three. Well, the Celtics already had that. And they were going to add in, let's say like a LeBron James. He was basically like built like a LeBron James, buff, could shoot, rebound, everything. You should look him up. He did cocaine the first time on draft night, died. Done. Didn't even get to see his first game as a pro, right? A champion that never was. You got to think as he's probably ODing. Oh shit. Zero. This is what I get. And this is where we have to acknowledge the different demons that people have and understand like, but I just want to feel something, I just want to blend in with some of my friends. I just want to have, I just have a little taste. He had a little taste. He's done. So seeing that, I cried. I remember telling my mom, she was like, what's wrong, baby? I was like, he died. He died. He died. And that was an opportunity for her to say, this is why you'll never do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I've always tried to be mindful of that angel that's inside of us all that says, hey, don't do that. Don't touch that hot stove. You're going to get burnt. You're going to learn a couple lessons in life, and those lessons are always paid with a price that's expensive or inexpensive. Inexpensive, parking ticket. Expensive, Len Bias. You got to figure this out, and you can't be so egotistical that you think that you'll cheat death or cheat the system or whatever. So it's the ones that actually do all the things the right way throughout their entire life that have built a real legacy, and it's something admirable. Sorry.
Well, here's the thing as well, man. Like, imagine that you do manage to make a number of bad decisions and stack the deck against your favor, and somehow you do make it through. The only way that you've done that is by putting a blindfold on and running through a minefield, and simply by chance. I would rather try, and this is my risk aversion, right? I in business, in everything that I do, I'm very, very risk averse, which means that I sometimes don't take opportunities when they come, but it also means that I usually tend to avoid pitfalls as best I can. If you do the wrap the blindfold on, tie it and run, the only way that you make it through unscarred is by sheer chance. That's it.
Sheer chance, if you're faith-based, I mean, you can throw that in there for sure. But yeah, you may not want to try that too many times. And what you're speaking of, in my opinion, is a level of discernment. So understanding there's an ideation stage, and then you have to figure out strategy, and you have to figure out those pitfalls, right? And then make it relatable to you. Like, would you play Mario Brothers knowing that there's like a place where you could jump, and if you miss, you die? Well, there's parts in your life that, hey man, like, you're going to jump, you better calculate it.
And there's some people who will take that jump every single time.
And you're like, dude, there's no respawns.
Yeah.
There's no respawns in this life. So you got to be very mindful of this shit. You got to be very mindful of, hey, I'm going to try this drug, or I'm going to do this. Be mindful, man, because there's some people that have had some really bad, data that doesn't support your decisions. Do you really want to do that? And if you do, hey, and you make it, there's still data that says if you try it again, you may, it's like Russian roulette, like eventually, you're going to lose. So what are you willing to lose? What are you willing to gain? How do you leverage these things? And hey, it's your life. You make it make sense for you. But yeah, I know, like with business and stuff, you only learn shit is when you lose, it's a great teacher. Some of the greatest entrepreneurs are the ones that lost 8, if not 9 figures in their 30s to then be a billionaire in their 50s. But nowadays I look at this, I'm like, where can I actually learn from as many people as possible that have made mistakes? Like sometimes I always look at like pastors. They're not perfect. A lot of the good ones had bad past, like, oh, I was this. They could talk from real world experience, So I just try to align myself with people that have endured some type of level of adversity, but understood the patterns, the strategies, the enough is enough mentality. Like, enough is enough. I screwed around when I was in high school and college. I screwed around, man. Like,
time to grow up.
It's time to grow up and harness that energy within and push it and just keep going, knowing that there's going to be pitfalls. There's going to be, but you're going to get you're going to get hit, man. I think a lot of people just don't want to get hit. And that's what goes back to the pain tolerances and stuff. And you got to know you're going to get your ass beat depending on what you want. If you want just the typical $5,000 a month job, yeah, you may have, some things. You want to make 50 grand a month, come with a different level. You want to be 5 million a month. There's some people that listen, they'll say, I don't want to be that CEO. I'm good being the COO or even just C-level, person, because I can still see my kids. They can have a great life with me. They value things different. They know that if they put too much emphasis on just this title of running a Fortune 500 company, someone may get left behind, and then they may not understand, whether it be my wife or my kids or my friends. I had to think about that in my career, like, with friends. They're not going to understand. So you can't hang out with them. A lot of my 30s, I didn't see my college friends. But it's all good because I got what I wanted out of it. It's kind of like Kobe Bryant. Like, he didn't hang out with people. He didn't do those things. On draft night, he gets drafted, he goes to the gym. I think that's how you answer your call to greatness. You do it and you don't stop. You do not stop, because oh man, it would be really shitty at the end of that life of yours that you were able to look at the version of self that you should have been, and that person kind of puts their arm around you and says, Phil, man, you could have done all this. Let me tell you about it. This is supposed to be the promised land, but before we walk there, I just got to show you what you could have done. Now, you did okay, and I don't want to hurt you, but this is who I am. And you just be in tears, so upset that all those Y's in a row, all those decisions that could have been made with some sacrifice, with some discernment, with some humility, with the ability to just say enough is enough with this BS, and I just need to have some stamina, that you could really achieve who you're truly supposed to be, not just for yourself, but for others. Because that's really what I believe in, like afterlife, is that I would see that person and he would be able to say, look at the people who you impacted based on what you did. And, when I have moments where I am fatigued, I think of that and I focus on that. And that's when it is just get your ass up, bitch. You know, like you got to say whatever it is, because that future version of self is someone that is really the gift. And if you really think that, imagine the people when they walk past your grave. That's Phil Heath. I met him at the expo, and he had a whole line of people and he poured into me, man. And son, that's the role model I want you to be. He helped me. I won't stop until I, you know, in my opinion, can lay down and say, you know what? I know I help people. Not because I held a phone in my hand and stuff like that, but I know because those people were right about you. See, we have followers and stuff, but you know, if you Google yourself, you probably have less search results because no one wrote about you. I looked you up. People write about you because you do things like this. You produce intellectual conversations, what I truly appreciate. And, you know, I wish you all the best because this is dope. But, you know, you got me thinking, men in general have to dream again, have to start declaring what they really want. And it can't just be a watch or a fucking car, man. It has to be something of true legacy, that if none of this really, no jewels mattered, what jewels are you leaving behind that are in the mind that can imprint on someone's soul?
Phil Heath, ladies and gentlemen. Phil, I absolutely adore your energy. I've really, really, really enjoyed today. Where should people go if they want to keep up to date with all of the things that you're doing at the moment?
Just at Phil Heath. At Phil Heath. And I'm redoing my website because I got a lot of cool things coming up. I have an upcoming documentary that will be announced at some point in time, hopefully this year, called Breaking Olympia. It actually has won film festival awards in the Florence Film Festival Awards for best documentary and best director. It's been co-produced by 7 Bucks Productions. I think you guys know who that is. With Danny Garcia and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So be on the lookout either for that at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's being picked up by a Hollywood studio, which is the first of its kind. Even Pumping Iron didn't have that. So I wish I could tell you who it is, but put it like this. When it's a Hollywood studio, it always starts with their name at the beginning. And, you know, of course, I'm, you know, working with Tren, you know, great HRT company. You know, we produce a lot of medications for people, but more importantly, we work with veterans, which I truly appreciate their you know, the commitment along with first responders. So we just, you know, I sit on the board for their foundation. So I help raise money for those people in need, especially at the top that have been knocked out of the fight, that have PTSD, TBI, those things. So you can follow me obviously on my social media. You can click the link in the bio and you can see all the cool stuff that I'm doing. You know, shout out to Flex Pro Meals, all those guys, Chic, Gymshark, of course, because that's why I'm here. And I'm really excited to proliferate more badassery with this company because I watched them from the very beginning, being at the freaking Body Power at the NEC, you know what I mean? And seeing their stamina and their willingness to champion through not just Gymshark, but the Gymshark lifting events that we put on. So yeah, keep training hard, training smart, and of course, having a whole lot of freaking fun, inspire the people who are, you know, willing to listen. And if they don't, keep doing it anyway. And just having that smile no matter what, man.
Phil, I appreciate you. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed that episode with Phil, then press here for a full-length 2-hour podcast episode with Mr. Olympia Classic Physique, Chris Bumstead. Go on. Press it.